Hey, 2 Feet In friends. I am thrilled to be back after a week break, and I'm really excited for you to meet my new friend, Amanda Zumbrock. Y'all, less than a year ago, she packed her bags and moved across the country to follow the Lord's call to a church plant in Texas. Her story of coming to faith and living out that faith is one that encourages me time and time again. And so I hope it brings you joy and excitement as you pursue Jesus too. I'm confident that at the end of this episode, you will be spurred on and excited about where God has you, or even where He may be calling and inviting you to next. Here's my conversation with my friend, Amanda. Hey, friend, I'm so glad you're here. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on here. I'm excited for what we're talking about today. Yeah. But first, what's bringing you joy right now?
What's bringing me joy right now? I would say I've been doing a lot of baking.
Okay.
And I love baking and cooking for other people. That's been bringing me a lot of joy. I think where I really realized that was retreat a few weeks ago. Rachel and I did a lot of the cooking for that, and just so much joy cooking for everybody. And I've been baking a lot, bringing that to launch team, to work and stuff. And I just love providing that. And also I just have a lot of fun doing it while I'm actually cooking and baking. So
nice.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite thing to bake lately?
I mean, my go-to is my chocolate chip cookies. Everybody seems to really like those. Nice. So I found a recipe that works and stick with it.
Nice. Is there a secret ingredient?
There's nothing really special about it. The only thing I changed is, instead of chocolate chips, chocolate chunks.
Ooh, that's
so I
good.
think that's what elevates it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done some chocolate chunk cookies before.
Yeah.
They're good.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good. I wish that I had cookies now. I'm kind of hungry just a little bit.
Yeah.
But a big part of what I really wanted to talk about today was just one, this whole move to Austin, move to Texas, and how much I admire you for making this big leap of faith. Moving a county or two over is one thing, but to literally move across the country is another. And so I definitely want to get to that. But before that, what did early faith look like for you? When did you first really come to know Jesus?
Yeah. So I've been essentially a believer my entire life. Grew up going to church, and I'm very grateful for that my parents put me in that environment. But I know my parents were invited to church by our missionary neighbors when I was 1 year old. So we've been going since then. Yeah, that's really cool that was placed in our lives. So I've been going ever since. And I know that, I don't know if I've shared this with anybody here in Austin. I realized this after we talked previously, but when I officially gave my life to Christ was over tacos. I think it was Taco Tuesday with my dad. I think my mom was at Bible study, and he was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Sure." So that was the official time that I gave my life to Christ. Yeah, I think it was, we just passed it. My dad puts it in the calendar. I think it was February 22nd, 2010.
Sweet.
Yeah, I was 7. So now here we are. And I've been a believer my entire life, but college was definitely the time where I really became a true follower of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one, it's really cool that your story incorporates somebody else literally asking your parents to come to church. And that gives me hope, because it's what we do when we invite neighbors to church, there's a reason for that.
Right.
We think that, nothing will come of that. That doesn't matter. But that literally changed your whole family's trajectory in life.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that fuels your passion to tell other people about Jesus too?
That specific story of them being invited? I guess it's not something I've thought about a lot recently. But now that I think about it, yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, it's something that's so small, and you think is small, or might be even awkward, but worth it, obviously. This domino effect. And just thinking about what could that trigger in the future? You invite somebody, and then their family grows up in that, and then they could go on a church plant, or they could be a missionary or something like that.
That's cool. I love the domino effect, but it's like these things are just like ingrained into who you are.
Right.
And so something that I love about you is how much you tell stories of, well, I talked to my neighbor, I talked to my roommate, or I talked to my coworker about about God and inviting them to church, and like talking through hard conversations. And I shrink back from that sometimes, like total transparency. Like I get nervous.
Oh, me too.
And so it's just so cool. But it's like you've been directly impacted. Well, your parents were directly impacted. So therefore you were impacted because of somebody just saying, hey, will you come to church with us?
Right.
And so I love that you're like, I haven't really thought about it, but actually, maybe so.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in college, and like that's kind of when you took like your next step in faith. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I just graduated from college last May, less than a year ago, which is crazy. So much has happened since then. But yeah, so I was part of the SALT Company, which is a college ministry. And I went to Iowa State, and that's where the SALT Company started. And, it was like the summer before college, and my mom was like, have you heard about SALT Company? Because she's like, looking out for that kind of stuff. Like, what can I, like, be a part of, like, a church group? And I'm just, like, thinking about, oh, my gosh, I'm going to college.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. So she told me about that. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And it was, like, the week before classes, and I wasn't thinking about it because, like, first time away from home, like, pretty much always been home my entire life. Like never went to even like a sleepaway camp or anything, like always just home. So I was part of a marching band there. So I had like marching band auditions, and like that's all my brain was thinking about. And I had just gotten in the band, and like that was crazy. And I remember I was leaving like music hall with one of my friends after getting my uniform. Like I had it in hand, and these two guys came up to us and was like, have you heard of SALT Company? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I have. And he's like, well, freshman kickoff is tonight. It was either that night or the next night. And it was like the Sunday, like the night before classes started. He's like, you should come. And it was like in the Memorial Union on campus. And I was like, okay. I looked at my friend. I was like, do you want to go? And she's like, sure. So ever since then, I was a part of that. And yeah, I was part of that for all 4 years. Was in like wonderful like C groups or connection groups. That's what we call them. And like just wonderful group of girls every single year. The groups changed based on people graduating and like going on like study abroad and all that stuff. But like always just had a really solid group of girls in all my groups that I could just walk alongside, and like just people who actually wanted to like get to know me. Because growing up in church, like I said, I was always a believer, but also I never like really connected with the kids my age or like any of the kids at my church growing up, which was kind of rough. Like stopped going to youth group stuff like halfway through high school just because I was like, it just didn't feel right. So that was a super big blessing to have like I instantly felt that community when I joined SALT. Like it was like the first Thursday I walked in, or like the freshman kickoff, and then following like first Thursday, it was like, whoa. Yeah, and just having those groups, and like basically all the like leaders have signs, and it's like, east side of campus, like 7:30 on Tuesdays, come talk to us. Oh, cool. And just that's how they do it, and it's really sweet. And like if that doesn't work, you can always fill out a form, and like they'll connect you with a group that would work with you. And just all 4 years had a great time, and like being able to go to SALT conference, which is, well, it used to be in February, now it's in January, where like all the SALT companies come together, and getting to watch that grow too. Like I want to say there were like 4,000 students that would meet my freshman year, and by the time I got to this past year, it was like 7,500, which is so cool to see that growing across the country.
That's awesome.
But yeah, just I think having like a solid group of girls with me at all times, like that is so important. Like having those godly like female friendships as a woman is like essential. Yeah. To helping you grow and like feel God's love. So yeah, that, and then obviously like Thursday nights too, which is actual like SALT Company gatherings, was great to have that weekly reminder. And also, though, they stress going to like church. So I would go to church on Sundays as well, but also have that midweek reminder twice, both at small group and SALT Company. So yeah, and just through that, just felt over those 4 years, my relationship with Christ like grow even stronger. Like the end of my junior year, so when I decided not to go to grad school right away. And that was really scary because I was like, well, now I'm not going to like get into a school and just decide to go there. Now I could go almost anywhere. And then I went through breakup, and I was like, oh, well, now I especially don't know where I'm going. And that was all around that time, like right before senior year. And that was scary, but also I was like, well, I have so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And that kind of led into what eventually led to me like going on a church plant. Was at conference my senior year, so just over a year ago, which is crazy. It was put on my heart there to like go on a church plant, and I was like, I have to go, and just trusting God through all of that, and eventually finding a job in Austin. I was like, God, just please give me a job in one of the church plant areas. And I was thinking a 2025 plant. That didn't happen, and then I got some job opportunities here, and I was like, whoa, I have to go.
I think that's really cool, though. Did you ever feel like hesitant, scared? Like, were you just like, I feel like God wants me to go on a church plant, so like I'm pumped and I'm going on a church plant? Or like, what was that kind of initial reaction like?
I think at the very beginning it was more like, okay, where the heck am I gonna go? But it felt very clear, like it did. Like, I think that was the most clearest time, like loudest time I've ever heard God's voice. Like, it was actually crazy. It was like I got hit by a truck when I was at a conference. It was like, you need to go on a church plant. So they had some like breakout sessions where you could go hear about church plants and stuff. I went to one of them. I didn't go to the Austin one, but I did go to another one. But after that, I think it was like later that night during one of the sessions, they're like, if you were like looking to go on a church plant or no, you're going, like, please stand up. And like people around them, just put your hands on them. So like I stood up because like I was like, oh, I have to do it. Like I felt it that day. My C group, all the girls put their hands on me and like prayed over me. That was just so sweet to have that, them just be a part of that process and to think back to that. And now here I am. But yeah, it felt very clear, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the most unclear part about that was when at first I wasn't finding jobs in any of the cities where there were church plants, and I was like, well, God, you were telling me to do this, and now what the heck?
Yeah.
But
how'd you land
out
in Texas?
So I did a lot of like undergraduate research at Iowa State in genetics. That's my degree. And my PI, I was telling him that I was struggling to find jobs, and he was like, well, I have a friend who's a PI at UT Austin. Are you willing to move that far if you were to apply to the job and get it? And I was like, I'll look into it. And then as I was like looking into it, I was looking at the future like 2026 church plants because I'd more been focusing on the 2025 ones. I was like, oh shoot, they're doing a church plant there. And I was like, I have to apply to this. And this is like out of all the jobs I had like looked at applying to, this is the one I would want the most. And I was like, this would be perfect if I got it. So I applied, didn't hear back for a few weeks, which is kind of disappointing. But there was another job that I did get offered here, but I was like, it's not exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Like, it's not research heavy, and I knew I wanted to go into research. And then basically I heard back from that job like a week and a half before graduation, and they're like, we want to like interview you. And I was like, okay. And then like a couple days later, and then they were like, you've been shortlisted. And like that was week of graduation.
Dang.
Which was crazy because I didn't know where I was going. Because I had one job offer in Austin that I wasn't sure about, and another one to stay in Ames in Iowa. But then, like, I got this job and accepted it. I think it was 2 days before graduation. I was like, okay, let's do it. But yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Had you ever been to, like, Texas at all before that?
I had been in Arlington, Texas for less than 24 hours back in 2024 for a band trip.
Okay.
We had the Big 12 championship against Arizona State. That was, like, one of the worst trips ever. But not because of it being Texas. It was because we had delayed flights and then got here really late the night before, and then we lost the game, and then we immediately went back. So I didn't even like see Texas. It was basically like hotel room, stadium, hotel room, like bye.
Yeah.
Like we left that day the game was.
Yeah.
So like, no, Arlington was the only place I had been, and that was barely. So I was fresh to Texas.
How many times did you visit before you like loaded up a U-Haul?
Once, like 3 weeks before.
Dang.
Yeah, my aunt was like, you should go. And she's like, I'll take you. So my aunt took me down here. Yeah, like I think it was 3 weeks before. It was like mid-July, and then I moved here. We left home July 31st. We left at like 6 a.m. and got here at like 2 p.m. on the 1st because it was like a 2-day trip. And yeah, so I had one like 2-day visit where she was like, yeah, you should probably at least get a feel for what it's like. So it was definitely a leap of faith for me to decide just to move here without knowing what it was like.
Yeah.
But I knew so clearly I had to.
Yeah.
Like I should do it. I remember when I had like a meeting with Mitchell about the church plant. I told him like I had accepted and I'd never been there. He was like, whoa. I was like, yep,
yeah.
I'm coming.
That's so cool. Were you ever worried that you were making the wrong choice?
I don't think it was ever really a looming thing. No, I think maybe here and there you're like, oh shoot, like I'm already having such a big transition. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. This was like, I don't know if that made it easier or harder, but like straight out of college, like everything was changing anyways.
Yeah.
First time in my life not being in school, since I was like 2.
Right.
So school is all I've known. So like starting a 9 to 5 is already such a big change. So yeah, I don't know if that made it easier or harder to be like, okay, we're just starting fresh completely anyways.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a ton of people who are about to be graduating college and they don't know what's next in life. And so what was the hardest part of moving literally across the country right after graduation? And then what was the best part of moving?
Yeah, let me start with the best part.
Okay.
So I think the best part was definitely having the support of the launch team of our church. Just like instantly feeling welcomed. Like I was in Austin for like 10 minutes and like people from the launch team were helping me unpack the truck because I had asked if anyone could come help out. So a few people did.
Yeah.
And that was instant, like just feeling welcomed. And I know my parents were really relieved to see that. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think they were way more nervous about me moving than I was myself. Because pretty much like all of my family stays. They're from the Chicago area and they're all there. Okay. Like I have like 2 cousins that are like across the country like me, but everyone else kind of has been there for like generations. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but definitely feeling welcomed. And like I went right after my parents left because they were here for 2 days with me. It was like Sunday morning and like I went and had breakfast with them and like we all prayed together and that was very emotional. Like the 3 of us were all very emotional. And then I left and I went to church and I was like, this is probably the best thing I could do is like I went to church and like that's when I sat with the Lynns who had helped me move in. And yeah, I sat with them, that just instantly having that connection. Yeah. And then meeting like Mitchell in person for the first time too. That was cool. I was like, hey, because I've been, talked to him on the screen, but like instantly feeling welcomed by him too. Yeah, that was really sweet. So I think just having that instant support, I could not imagine moving across the country and not, like, I guess I didn't know anyone, but not having people you could even like go to.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. I'd say the hardest part, superficially, the hardest part has been like navigating the city.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but like, just like driving around and stuff. I feel like people drive crazy here. I don't know. That's just me. People would say like Chicago drivers are crazy, but I think Texas drivers are pretty crazy.
That's funny.
But yeah, just navigating that. And I think besides that, even though I have so many good connections here, I think something I still want to work on is like being even more intentional with those like individual relationships with people. I think that's something like I've been here, a little over 7 months now, and I still want to work on that. But like I could definitely say like, oh, like I have such like good friends in the launch team, but I think I want to be more intentional about like individual relationships. And I think that's really hard to do when you're especially like completely new to a place and like starting with a whole fresh group of people.
Yeah.
Like nobody from college, nobody from back home, no family.
Mm-hmm. How has like the launch team welcomed you into that? I feel like a lot of us are kind of in the same boat of, I don't know anybody walking into this. Mm-hmm. It's growing quickly. And I know others, even that might be listening to this podcast, might be thinking like, oh, I want to move to Texas and like join the way. Mm-hmm. I'm terrified. I don't know anybody. How has that experience been for you beyond just that first initial move in?
Yeah, it's been really sweet. Talking about intentionality, I think people on our team are very intentional. Mm-hmm. I think everyone is, but I feel like there's a few like people who are super intentional on our team that come to mind. Like specifically, shout out the Jacobs. I feel like they're so intentional when you're at something and them coming up to you and like asking you specifically about your day, and like honestly everybody on the team, but like they just came to mind. But yeah, the team is so intentional, specifically like the ladies on our team, the ladies. Yeah. Yep. Just like us meeting, we try to once a month, I guess. Yeah. So that's been really sweet, and just like finding a time, and it's definitely going to get harder, and I think it's getting harder like the bigger the group is, which is like a great problem to have. Yeah. That our team is getting bigger. It's not a problem, but yeah, I think just like our team is like just super I don't want to keep saying intentional, but that's really the number one word I'd use. Everyone like being there for each other, and like our prayer praise channel on Slack is great because like people just throw out anything, and like I feel like if something comes to mind that's like weighing on my heart, or like, hey, this something really exciting happened, like immediately go, like that is the first thing I go to.
Oh, I love that.
Like that and my mom, you know, I'm like guess what just happened. So like that's been really sweet. So I feel like I can like bring anything.
Yeah. That's cool.
To whether it's the whole team or if it's just a ladies thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I can just immediately go to y'all. Yeah.
Just like recapping this, because I think it's crazy, but also really cool. You heard from God to move. You didn't know where. You didn't have a job lined up. Graduation's coming. All of a sudden, Austin comes up and you're like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to move to Texas. I don't know a soul. Haven't met anybody in person.
Yeah.
Haven't even been there, but I'm committed. And then you come for a couple days. Then you bring all your stuff down, and it's like, that's when you meet people for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, people are probably listening to this thinking like, you are insane. I could never do that. But I think it's really cool how clearly you heard the Lord, but also how much peace you felt and how you were like, okay, I know this is the right thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that when God calls us to things, he gives us just like this undeniable, unexplainable peace when it's like the right thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's just really cool. Like you can see that and you like light up when you talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. Like this wasn't a you coming down here kicking and screaming. It was like, this is where God's calling me. And like, I'm excited and joyful to like go and see what he has.
Yeah.
So how have you like seen God move here since you've moved? How have you grown in your relationship with him, or how have you kind of just seen him more clearly?
I think since moving down here, personally, I've seen more growth in like having confidence to talk to people about like what I've been a part of. At like one of the lab meetings at work, in my intro slides, I included like why I truly moved down here. I was like, this is my job, but let me tell you why I really moved down here. So I had that opportunity to like tell people. My boss later, he was like, what is a college ministry? Because I was talking about salt. That was really cool to like open up a conversation like that and talk about that. And just in conversations with other people, and like I work with graduate students and college students mainly. Like I'm one of the few staff members there, which is an interesting position to be in because I'm around everyone. I feel like I spend a lot of time around the students, and some of them that weren't there when I initially told them, I've since then been able to share like why I'm here. And I think something I still want to work on is getting bolder at just like sharing the gospel. But I think what I've been starting with now is, oh yeah, I moved here for like a church plant, giving the shorter spiel of it, you know. One of the girls that I'm really close with, who's like a non-believer at my lab, we're like has a different faith. We've kind of discussed that stuff, and like I've been very open. So I think it's really important to start with just building relationships. It's not all about, hey, I just met you, like share the gospel. I mean, like that's great if you do that. Like some people are really great at that. I think I'm not. Like I don't think I have that gift of really bold evangelism. Like that's great that some people do. I kind of wish I did, but I think I've been placed in such a great position. Even when I have doubts about my job and I get really frustrated, I think about it, I'm like, God placed me here for a reason. Like this university needs Jesus. My building specifically needs Jesus. My floor, my lab, we really need Jesus. Like they need Jesus. We need to remind ourselves that we need Jesus. But yeah, I think just like being a light in the workplace is like super important. And yeah, just being able to share why I moved down here, because then people are like, whoa, you moved down here for that. And like, I think that's just showing the grace of God and like the opportunities that he's put in my life. And how bold you can be for him, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool though. I totally agree with you. Like, I think everything has to start on a relational basis.
Yeah. Nobody's
going to care about anything you say if you're not friendly or like have any kind of base level of relationship with them. So I think that's just really cool, and that you continue to build relationships with both believers and non-believers.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in the church are scared to go outside of the church and like make friends with people who don't believe the same things that we do.
Yeah.
I feel like you do a really good job of, regardless of what somebody believes, regardless of what their faith is, like you still love and care for them.
Yeah. I feel like throughout my entire life, I've probably been friends with more non-believers than believers. I was involved in band since like 5th grade. So like the majority of like my friends, especially in high school and college, were like my band friends, and like most of them were not believers. So I think having those Christian friendships are like so important. But yeah, God has placed a lot of people in my life who are not. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really sweet. Well, for the people who are like listening, who are graduating soon, who are like, what's next in life? What am I supposed to be doing? What advice do you have for them? Just like, what do I do next? I don't really know.
I think my biggest advice would be like, whatever decision you make, you're not going to mess up God's plan. Like you're too small to do that. Like respectfully, you are too small to mess up God's plan. Like he has a good plan for you. I think most people would not have the story that I would have, and that's okay. Especially the part about me like hearing God's voice like really loudly. Like I think some people think you need to hear that all the time to make a good decision, and that's not the case. That was a very specific case for me, and I feel like I haven't felt that as powerfully as like that one time.
Yeah.
You might not get a super loud voice from God telling you where to move after college or like what to do after college. He gives us freedom of choice. We do get a lot of choice. Like there are some things, yes, that are very clear. For example, mine was going on a church plant. But let's say you were choosing between the Austin church plant and the Corvallis, Oregon church plant, and like you had job offers in both. Obviously, it's a hard decision, completely different areas and all that stuff. But like, don't think, oh shoot, am I going to make the wrong decision? Because like if you choose Oregon, God's going to use you there. And if you choose Austin, he's going to use you there too. Don't place that much pressure on yourself that you're going to make the wrong decision, because God will use you literally anywhere. Even if you stay in your hometown where you've lived your entire life, or if you stay in your college town, the good news needs to be spread everywhere. So yeah, just know that you're not going to mess up his plan.
That's so good. And also very humbling. Like you're too small to mess up God's plan, but it's so true. Like we don't have that kind of power.
Right.
God is just so much more infinitely greater than we can even imagine.
Yeah.
I think we need that reminder. Like, you're too small. You are incapable. This isn't like a, like a test or rebellion. Like, don't go try to mess it up. But I think that's really good. We talk about Jonah all the time. Emily and I do. But it kind of makes me think of him. It's like God tells him to do something and he's like, no. No. And like throws a fit about it. But eventually he gets there and he does what God tells him to do in his fit throwing stage. And people repent and people come to know the Lord. Like the entire city of Nineveh is like, what? We repent. Like we're turning to God. We're worshiping God. And then Jonah's mad. But like Jonah he couldn't mess it up. Yeah. Now there's that one side, but I also love that you're like, I always say it this way. Some decisions are right and wrong. Right. Some are left and right. And like you get to choose which direction you go, and God's going to be there the whole time. Like you said, he's going to move whether you move to Texas or if you move to Oregon or if you take a job instead of going to a church plant. I think so many of us, I mean, me too, felt for a long time like, well, if I'm not doing full-time vocational ministry in a church, then I'm wasting my gift or I'm not doing ministry or I'm not doing enough. Right. And I think what God's really taught me over the last year and a half or 2 years is wherever you are located is where your ministry is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I did not see that fresh out of college. I mean, I'm like just learning that. So like, it's so encouraging to me really to see people like you, young, early 20s saying, hey, like, I know that my purpose isn't wrapped up in a job. It's like, God is calling me. I get to decide which direction I want to go. And like, he's going to use me wherever I am. Those are true things. And to like, not just believe them in your head, but like you're living that out. And that is so encouraging to all the old folks on our launch team. Old folks, I know. But it's just like really sweet. And I need that reminder because I so often fall into that trap of, well, I'm not doing enough because I'm not a part of a church staff or something.
Right. Yeah.
I'm constantly reminded that I'm right where he wants me and he's going to use me.
Exactly.
And so I wish I understood that when I was 22.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of people like me that are in careers, may have graduated a long time ago, that are kind of trying to figure out, how can I be useful where I am? I have friends who say, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I work full-time and I've got kids full-time. Like, I don't have time to serve at the church. Mm-hmm. What are some tangible ways that people can be living out what God has called them to do wherever they are?
I think one big thing is like in whatever like you're doing. So whether that's it's definitely not just a stay-at-home mom. That's crazy saying just.
Yep. 100%.
But being a stay-at-home mom, full-time job there.
Yep.
Or whatever job, like remind yourself like why you're doing it. Like you're doing it to serve the Lord. That's something that I have to remind myself a lot at work, and I probably should do it more. But like God gave you your environment that you're working in, and he gave you your talents and gifts to like do that, and just remind yourself of that and like the beauty in what you're doing. For example, for me, like I work in genetics, and the more I've learned about it, the more my faith has like deepened, because it's like, that's crazy. Like God wrote like code into each one of us, and like that makes us who we are. That is no coincidence. My field, I feel like, is such strong evidence for your creator, Yeah. That's crazy how complex. And there's so much we don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's like what I'm researching is like disease and stuff, and like just learning about our code. It's just like crazy that God did that. And like, it's just like seeing him in that is something that I remind myself of. So yeah, I think just like doing that and like being like the salt and light of the earth. So like being good examples of what it means to like show God's love, I think, to the people around you in whatever you work in. Working hard is super important, but also not putting all of like your worth into that too. I think that's super easy, especially like here in Austin. Like people move here for like tech jobs, working downtown or whatever else, and like there's so much like that's their self-worth. And like also working for a university, like for example in my field, it's like, how many papers have you published?
Yeah.
Which is important, but then people put like all of their self-worth and like, oh, you're a better scientist because you have all these papers and all your stuff like that, or like you're worse because you don't have as many, and like having that pressure. So I think having that good balance of like hard work, but reminding myself that's not what it's all about, but I can like serve God through that, through your work. Most of the people we need in the church aren't working in the church.
Yeah,
like
true.
We need people to go out, because to reach everyone, you can't stay in a church building. We are the church, and that should be in all corners, whether that be teachers, scientists, doctors, all of the above. It's like super important.
We need to worship the Lord where we are, and do it wholeheartedly. But also, our worth isn't wrapped up in our work. Like, we are not our jobs.
Yeah.
Our calling is not our job. Our purpose is not our job. And I think sometimes we can get tripped up in that a little bit.
Yeah.
And, it's like something bad happens at work, and then all of a sudden my self-worth crashes.
Yep.
Or a relationship breaks apart and my self-worth or identity crashes. And so I think that is just so applicable to everybody, regardless of where they are. Our identity and our worth, it's like all tied up in the Lord. And when we misplace that, we usually crash and burn at some point, because nothing on earth lasts forever.
Exactly.
But yeah, I feel like you're just so wise.
Thank you.
Just like, it's crazy. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, how did you just graduate college a year ago? It's just so crazy to me, but it's so encouraging. The way that you pursue the Lord and pursue people encourages my faith all the time. And I know that is so true for many more people, probably more than you even realize. But yeah, I'm just like really excited we got to sit down and chat about this.
Yeah.
That like ultimately we can serve God wherever we are, and we can step into obedience and faithfulness also wherever we are.
Yeah.
Without worrying that like we're going to screw up the big cosmic plan somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Or like God's plan for our life, even if we, shrink it down. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
So fun.
Yeah.
I love how Amanda's story is simple yet beautiful, and how she follows God wherever he is calling her, and she trusts him that he will provide for her, and she can just continue to take these leaps of faith, whether that's moving across the country or talking to her coworkers about Jesus. And that is the kind of faith that I want. A bold, unapologetic, kind, relational faith. And I also want to encourage you, friends, because we share a lot of stories on this podcast, and some have some really low lows and some really high highs. And sometimes you might be tempted to think, well, my story isn't like that, so my story's not good enough, or my story's not powerful enough. But that's not true. If you are a believer in Christ, then you have a story that matters. And this is a place that I want you to hear time and time again, that you can tell people about Jesus because Jesus has done a work in you. And your story, your testimony is important, and it's beautiful, and it glorifies God. So every time you get a chance to share it, I hope and I pray that you will do that. And so I'm excited. We are going to be talking more about stories in the near future here on the podcast. But in the meantime, be sure to give us a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube, and come hang out with us on Instagram as well and follow along. And make sure to share this podcast episode with your friends or on your social media stories. That is honestly the best way to help other people hear these episodes. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week of worship. We will be back next time right here on 2 Feet In with Kim.